Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. Before we kick off this week's episode, just a quick ask. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure that you never miss an episode, never miss out on any of the strategies and tactics that we're sharing to help you continue charting your own path to freedom. And if you'd like to go deeper with any of this, we've launched a free Facebook group, which you can join at pathtofreedom.com/group. And we've linked that in the show notes to make it easy for you to find. All right. Thank you again for being here. Let's drop in to the episode. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Path to Freedom podcast. Today, I've got two great guests joining the show. First is Mike Liu, who's the founder and CEO of FreeFuse. And second is Alex Londo, who's the founder and CEO of Clarissa AI. So we're going to be talking AI today, and we're going to be talking about how AI can be leveraged and implemented, whether you're a small business owner, franchise owner, or even a larger company like a franchisor with a bunch of different outlets. So anyways, Mike, Alex, thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yep.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah, I know. Just really appreciate being able to, chat about AI, and I think what I've seen is a lot of folks, kind of look at it as just only like your Chat GPTs, or looking at just simply the use case of I'm going to use this for copywriting, or what I like to say is advanced Grammarly, right? And so I think there's a lot more stuff that people don't even realize is out there, and how much time it's going to save in some areas, but more importantly, how much it can actually take some of your ideas and actually allow you to even come up with new ideas, concepts. It can help you brainstorm. And so some of the stuff that I have always told people is you should really just kind of try and run with as much as you can, and try to see what you can put into it, because you'd be surprised what kind of sophisticated stuff that you can actually do with like your Chat GPTs or large language models. There's a lot of different things that people aren't even aware of that you can do, and so I'm happy to share more about that today.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to dig into this, because I think you're exactly right. The average person, or the average business owner that doesn't come from like a tech background, we've been hearing all about AI for years now, and more, over the last couple of years. And, like I know in my world of franchising, every franchise company that I hear from is talking about AI. We're using AI, we're implementing AI. And in my mind, it's almost just become kind of a buzzword. And I think part of it is because, most companies today realize that they need to be thinking about AI, or at least talking about AI, right? Like, I'm hearing from franchise companies under the context of why I should consider recommending their franchise company to someone I'm working with that's looking to buy a business, right? So they're kind of promoting themselves as, oh, we're using AI. But, in my mind, it had just kind of become a buzzword. And I think, at this point, yeah, most people are aware of Chat GPT and some of that, but it's been really interesting for me over the last, I don't know, say 6 months or so to start to get a better understanding of like how AI really can be implemented into all different aspects of a business, whether you're a small business owner or, own a much larger business. So that'll be a good segue in. I want each of you to kind of share with the audience what your respective companies do, because you guys have founded separate companies, but now you've kind of teamed up and are working together because your products and services really do kind of complement each other. So Alex, why don't you kick us off? Give us kind of a quick overview of Clarissa.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. So yeah, we started Clarissa shortly after the launch of ChatGPT, just because the possibilities really are endless. And to your point about AI being a buzzword, I can agree with that, and I sentimize with that. I really do. And I think until companies really start to see the measurable effect of AI and what it's doing to their business, whether it's their cost or their labor or their operational efficiencies, it's going to stay a buzzword. But if I have anything to do with it, That's not going to be the case. It's not going to stay a buzzword. It's going to become a solution, really, and it's going to be something that franchises are going to seek out when they realize the power that not just ChatGPT holds, but like Mike was saying, a lot of the other functions of AI, and that landscape's changing almost seems like every single month at this point, which is very rapid for technology. But back to why we started. So I got my start at Anytime Fitness in 2011. And I started my franchising journey there. And over 8 years, I learned a lot about the inner workings of a franchisor and how it supports franchisees. Specifically, I noticed, how the human power involved in answering the same questions over and over, because you always have new franchisees coming through the system, or you always have questions to answer for existing franchisees who need that support. And so AI didn't really exist at the time. There wasn't really a great way to scale these conversations, if you will. And so fast forward to the launch of ChatGPT at the beginning of 2022, end of 2021. And yeah, it was really cool, whiz-bangy cool. What does it mean? What does this technology do? I can have a conversation with a computer. Cool. But I started asking the question, can we get it on the phone? Can it start having conversations with people? Can we train it like your best employee and get it on the phone having conversations with people? Can we have it texting people? Can we have it web chatting with them? Can we scale the conversations that I was seeing happening over and over and over through human labor and human effort? Can we scale those conversations in an impactful, meaningful way that works for the person who needs the help, works for the company that's providing the help, and everyone's winning? Is it possible? So we started exploring those solutions and what that might look like. And today, now we have Clarissa, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're answering the phone, we're answering text messages, and we're answering questions for franchisees and franchisors.
Yeah, really cool. And I've had a chance to demo a little bit of this. So, for those that may be wondering, like when you talk about we're answering the phone, like walk us through what does that actually look like? So you have AI actually answering the phone with voice, having a conversation with someone. It could be a customer or a potential customer. Like share a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so primarily in the customer education vein, right? Where humans are probably educating customers on the same things over and over all day long about their products and services. And not only that, but you have to constantly train in new people as you turn over, right? So you have to train people in on everything they need to know to have conversations about your brand or company. So an AI can essentially do all of that for you now over the phone. Yep, that's right. You call a number and an AI answers, and it sounds, like you probably found, shockingly like a human. It has natural language processing to it. And so, we're using a myriad of tools to kind of pull it all together into one experience for the caller. But the goal is to have your best trained phone representative available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to an unlimited number of people. And of course, AI does have its limitations, and so we have built in those exceptions. So if you want to ask for a human and that's available, then it will move you over to a human. Or if you're looking to perform an action, it can send you a link to get that done. So that's how our AI continues to engage the conversation a little bit deeper than just having just like a phone call with a computer.
Yeah, super interesting. And we'll dig more into it. But I mean, out of all the franchises I work with, many of them have a call center component, right? And I know that's not necessarily what you guys are, set out intending to do, right? But to me, I'm like, man, if you can take it there, right, where you can replace a call center of, 20, 30, 40, however many people, right, that still have to use the bathroom and take a lunch break and sleep at night and all of that, that's where I start to connect the dots. I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to really visualize how AI can have a big impact for, small business owners and kind of the types of businesses that I deal with on a regular basis. And then obviously, text messaging, chatting on websites, like that's become a dominant way of companies being able to interact with customers or prospects. So being able to train these AI models to, I like the way you put it, interact with someone like your best trained employee would be able to. So We'll dig more into that. But Mike, why don't you kind of give us a quick introduction and overview of FreeFuse before we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, just as a kind of how we ever got to meeting each other, and I actually had to research this before I came on the call because I forgot. But I actually met Alex through a lunch club, or lunch club a while back. Had the opportunity to chat, and kind of see what it is that he was doing at the time, and we had always talked about the idea of enjoying sort of being fellow founders and talking to each other about these sorts of things. And there is that different aspect of it, right, when you are starting something, and having support groups, right. And it's why I've always really liked franchise model, because you really do get a lot of support and able to build things up in a really nice, like, structured for you way, right. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for folks to become business owners, and I think it's a great model. And talking to Alex, of course, like a little while back, so the whole, like, thought process behind this was, in the tech realm, we there had been this idea around building up like an ecosystem, right, like you might find out in the wild, but modeled for businesses and relationships. And really, the whole thought process was, rather than thinking about how do we take pieces of the pie, it was really about how do you make the pie bigger. And I like that. I like the idea around how is it that we can build opportunities that were bigger than what they were before. And so what I wanted to do was find folks that I felt like had complementary solutions, and even just talk to people that I liked talking to, and seeing if there was a way to work together, right. And so funny enough, I was talking to Alex about his about some of what he had been working on previously, and I had an idea around how that linked up together in terms of training and learning and things like that. But he mentioned that he was working on Clarissa, and of course, we ourselves had some great interest in terms of franchises using our model to create content that would be utilized for things like a new franchise rollout, for example, or utilizing us as a standardized training tool across a number of locations. And for those who are not familiar with our company, what FreeFuse does is provide, if you're familiar, a choose your own adventure type of experience, like the books. Or if we have some younger listeners, you might see a video game that might have multiple choices about what dialogue to go to next, right. And whether you've played that or whether your kids have played that, you've probably seen it, right. So to some degree, every response you have in something like that, or every choice you make in those books, gives you an opportunity to influence the content. It influences the experience. And so what we set out to do was actually create a way for that to not just be in video, but also to connect to a number of different interfaces, to connect to a number of different places, and more importantly, to be able to take that and embed that in people's websites. Now, we were thinking about it in terms of helping subject matter experts monetize their knowledge. What I didn't realize over time was how important some of that would be for customer engagement, customer success. And people realize, oh, this can be a mid-funnel device. Once they get to our website, we can give them these resources, or we can give them a video where they can make decisions on what paths they want to go down. And if we want to funnel them to something specific, now we actually have an intentional path to showing them. The other part, though, is that we actually have the capability to put every single section of our little journey that you can create has a URL for each piece. Meaning that if you, for example, had a system like Clarissa's, where you, as a user, were asking it questions, and said, "I would like to find all the information about this," we could technically drop you in to any part of that sort of navigation map that we have, or tree structure, some as some people call it. And what we do is we can drop you into any point in there, and if you've mapped out your journey, you might already have somebody who's halfway into the buying process, and you want to serve them material that'll help them actually get to the end, right. Maybe it's a consultation call. Maybe you're trying to get them to actually go and request a quote. Whatever that action is, we can facilitate that, and we can be the quickest path between where they come to your site for the very first time, or they interface with a system like Clarissa's. We can drop you into the place that you are in terms of relevant information you need. And then our goal is to help them make it to the end of the journey. And whether that's through, helping provide guidance, and, helping to provide some creative consults around how the content is structured, to how the choices are made, and, how you're prompting the call to action. we help with, a ton of that stuff. And we basically go and port that into any system you need, from a website to a CRM to an LMS for training, whatever it is, we can easily make that scalable. And so, when Alex was talking about Clarissa and what they did, it just felt like a hand in glove fit. And a lot of folks have been agreeing with us because, it's been very well received so far. And I've been grateful for being able to find people who have the same enthusiasm as we do.
We'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to quickly share a free resource with you. If you're curious about franchise ownership and want to learn more about how countless people, including myself, have leveraged franchising as a way to create more freedom for themselves and to take control of their livelihood, I've put together an ebook. It's called Franchise Wealth Creation, and it's the perfect starting point for anyone that's just curious to learn more about this whole franchise thing and how I've helped hundreds of other people navigate all the steps involved in understanding and researching franchising. So click the link in the show notes, fill out a short form. I'll send you the ebook. I think it's a great starting point if you're curious at all about learning more about franchising. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, no, it's a cool story, and funny that you had to go and look up where you guys originally met and connected. But yeah, I mean, to me, it like in this space, and anyone that listens to this podcast knows I am the farthest thing from an AI or a tech expert. But it does seem like the space is growing so rapidly. There's so many different applications. Like, to me, it makes a ton of sense that you guys as founders, like, you have a fairly narrow focus where you're trying to really, become an expert at solving kind of specific problems. Why not go partner with someone else that's got a complementary service versus trying to go too wide and solve too many problems for people? And then you're just probably not going to be all that great at doing any of it versus, really focusing and being great at it. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. Alex, you mentioned kind of having a background in franchising, having worked for Anytime Fitness at the franchisor level. So, like, as you're launching Clarissa, where did you see the biggest opportunity for this? Were you kind of thinking in the context of like, hey, this would be really beneficial for franchisees that own businesses like Anytime Fitness? Did you see a much bigger need for it? Like, what was kind of the catalyst for you to say, all right, this is the business I want to go forward with?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because I actually think that maybe it's still to reveal itself a little bit. All of this is still new. I mean, the AI, the ability to integrate it at the levels that we can now, being able to create these tools and systems that incorporate AI. It's only been a couple of years. Adoption curve is still picking up, right? And so I don't know. I think our biggest opportunity is actually yet to reveal itself. It's a bit of an arms race within our own company a little bit, as far as, is it going to be the phone that takes off? Is it going to be the text? Is it going to be a web-based chat? Believe it or not, just this week, we found out that a good chunk of our customers are facing the new FTC click to cancel law, where they need to be compliant with that by April. And our AI is being looked at as a solution for, again, scaling those conversations out to millions and millions of people, so you can have a consistent, repeatable, documented process to be compliant with that click to cancel law. That was something that I never even thought or saw on my radar 2 months ago. And that now that's kind of the leader of the arms race a little bit. So it's wild right now. I will say that. As far as kind of like where I really feel like our tools can make a huge impact, especially at the largest levels, right, is let's think about how franchisees, because I'm very passionate about making sure that franchisees are empowered, that they have access to the knowledge and resources that they need to be successful. A gap in that can be the difference between somebody having a successful franchise and somebody actually going out of business and losing everything, as you might well know. And so I take that support from the franchisor super seriously. And I know that for a long time, franchisees have been living in a world where, oh, I need something. I know what I need, but I don't know the answer. So they go into a dashboard or a library or a SharePoint, and they
Yeah.
search and they dig, and then they get a document, but it's like 17 pages long. So now they're like scrolling through that to be like, where's the answer? I wanted a way to have AI do all that work on behalf of your company. Just give me the answer. What's that answer? That's why the segmentation that Mike was talking about with his video, what he does for video is what we do with information.
Okay.
Go through everything, find my answer, and just give me the answer. Same with his videos. If I need to know how to hang a picture, then start me at the beginning. But if I need to know just how to put the nail in the wall to hang the picture, just that part, bring me right there. Let me
Yeah.
pick up from that point. And that's what our systems working together can do. They can say, hey, I need this answer. And not only do you need the answer, but you need to go right here into the video tree to get, your video for it.
Yeah, it's impressive. The video stuff, Mike, that you guys are doing, like when we all first met and you were kind of explaining your company to me, like my wife and I have owned home service type franchises, right? So we have like technicians that are out in the field, installing products and in some cases servicing products. And so that's kind of like immediately where my mind went. I'm like, man, they could literally just type in a question and then like at their fingertips have a detailed instructional video of how to do whatever it is they're trying to do. I mean, there's infinite number of applications for any business, whether it be for training employees. I mean, looking at it through the franchise lens, right? I mean, every growing franchise is bringing in new franchisees. They have to go through a lot of training. And Alex, to your point, a lot of that training is kind of at least by the standards of how we look at things these days with AI growing as rapidly it is, a lot of that training is kind of done in outdated formats, right? It's PowerPoints or it's in person and you're taking notes and then maybe they email a slide deck to you afterwards. Or, I mean, literally the franchises we've bought, I've gone to training and I've come home with a binder, 2 feet thick, like you think I'm really leaving that on my desk and going back to it to reference it. So, that to me is really exciting because it's like, these franchisees, they go through training. Usually it's like a week long. They're there in person at training for a week, but they are drinking from the fire hose and you're going to maybe retain 20% of what you get while you're there. But an easy, effective way to be able to, at any point in time, go back and access exactly what you need, especially in the format of video, right? Because you can just get so much more out of that versus reading it or looking at a chart or whatever the case may be. That's really interesting. But then you think about, okay, with every new franchisee comes employees that they have to hire, right? And those employees need to be trained. And then, look, we all know as business owners, you're going to have some turnover with employees. So you're going to be losing people and replacing people. And, even if you're growing, which is a great thing, you're adding more people to your team. So that's where this stuff gets really, really exciting to me. But here's, and I may have asked you guys about this, but I think it'd be a good question for the podcast because I hear this and I understand why it's exciting, but I also know myself as a business owner, and I'm sometimes a little bit hesitant to adopt something new like this, not because I don't believe it will work, because I'm intimidated of how much time and effort it's going to require to implement it. Right. So, as a business owner, Mike, I'll start with you. How long of a implementation process is this, right? Like to make all the videos that are needed, to come up with all of the content. I imagine it's kind of an ongoing thing, right? You're always kind of building and adding to it. But like in order just to get started, like what type of a time commitment would a company be looking at? I'm sure it varies, but just kind of generally.
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of what we like to do is to be able to make it as simple and easy as possible, right? Like you can give us a ton of your manuals, we can turn those into scripts, right? And we have our own programs around that and we can easily help you do that. We can also go ahead and look at what content you have already. How do we, turn this into something that's more engaging and easy to digest? You might actually have, for example, a 30-minute training session that you want people to go and look at. Well, we can go ahead and break that down with our, auto editor tool, which is also an AI powered tool, and it'll segment everything, automatically organize it, and label it into shorter bite-sized segments and turn it into the structure. So everything is digestible, easily searchable, and all you have to do, it's two steps. Like, we deal with folks in the surgical realm as well, right? And so you can only do things that take them two steps. Apparently, three is too many. So we made it two steps, and it's literally just upload. And then if you look at everything when it's done and everything looks good, you click publish, and there you go, right? So that's how you can even create shorter bite-sized segments automatically and use our format. But keep in mind, you can also then download those videos, turn those into, some other material if you would like. But at the end of the day, the time commitment it takes to actually create things. The funny thing is, you probably already have some degree of something like in your spaces, right? And we want to be able to meet up with that and provide as simple and easy of instruction as possible. So we usually put together, kind of an idea of, hey, these are the things that we think, that you're missing. How do we want to go ahead and film that? I mean, we've had folks get done with stuff within like a week. We've had, some folks who've had, tons of material, and that's gotten done in a couple weeks to like, get everything onboarded, make sure it's ready to go. But it really all depends on, how much content do they have already. But filming it really isn't as much of a challenge. It's really more about figuring out what information you want to share on a regular basis with the next group of people. Because what we want to be able to do as a high level principle is be able to say, if I were somebody who were coming in on the very first day at any given time, how easy would it be for me to pick this up and understand what to do? And if we optimize to giving them the exact easy steps, everything's laid out visually, then it's a much easier conversation for me to have and say, yeah, you know what? It might have been my first day on the job, but I was already able to do XYZ thing. And at the end of the day, when the turnover happens, turnover is a dual-sided coin, right? It's not just the people you lose, but it's how effective you can make the next batch of folks that you hire, basically game ready, right? And so if we want to be able to do that, we have to map out, what it is that someone needs to know in order to do that specific task. And once you break it up into the shorter chunks, it's easier to get people to film shorter chunks than it is to get people to film 30 minutes. And I've noticed that's what makes it faster.
Yeah. Well, no, that makes a lot of sense. Let's figure out, hey, what information we need to share. What of that information do we already have content or resources created for that can kind of be repurposed and just chunked down into these more bite-sized bits? And then from there, you kind of know, all right, these are the things where we've got some holes and we need to go out and create it. And then you just keep building to it and adding to it from there. Imagine every now and then you go back and get rid of something that's outdated and replace it with something that's more current. But I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Alex, what about with Clarissa? Like, give us some maybe examples or case studies of, like, I know you've already got some people piloting or using this. Give us like some real life examples of how other businesses are implementing.
Yeah, definitely.
Clarissa.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll get to it in just one second, because I want to say that what Mike has is really unique in the fact that when I was the multimedia producer for Anytime Fitness, all video came through my desk, and I couldn't tell you how many times I was asked to take 45-minute, hour-long seminars, presentations, PowerPoints, whatever you want to name them, and the ask was always loaded. It was always, make this more bite-sized, make this more digestible. As a video editor, there's nothing more painstaking than pulling apart that type of stuff and making these little micro videos that are all getting hosted separately. They're all disconnected. They're all over the place. Now I have a page with all these links. It was a mess. And so Mike's solution is really the only solution, in my opinion, to take a large quantity content and get it into bite-sized pieces. Of course, if you can create the content at the bite-sized scale and build up from there, then that'll always deliver the best experience. And so, yeah, when it comes to implementation for us, obviously it really, scope, size, the amount of users, the amount of information, right? All of those things. But I like to share an anecdote with a customer that we're working with, because we got to a point in the meeting where they were like, so where do we start? And I was like, oh, okay, good question. Good question. Where do
Where
we,
do we start?
where do we start? So I asked them, I said, let's spend the next half hour of this meeting. I want you to tell me all the questions you're answering over and over, all the questions your people are answering over and over. Let's just get the lowest hanging fruit that we can. By the end of that call, I had 35 questions, and then they had sent me all the resources to go get the answers to those questions. So we were able to use AI to find the answers and all that. And so here I have 35 questions, 35 answers to these questions. We set up an AI. It starts reducing their call volume by 50%. Because those 35 questions were responsible for 50% of their call volume. And so really we can do a lot by just tackling the lowest hanging fruit, by getting at the elephant in the room, if you will. And that's actually where we'll see the biggest swing. And then as we dial it in with more and more knowledge, you know, eventually we get it to the point where a person's going to ask a very specific question. They'll get a very specific answer, but we build it up to that point. So implementation can be quick, but then it's a constantly morphing evolution.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. So reducing that call volume by 50% because those kind of common questions were what was driving 50% of the phone calls. How were people getting those questions answered instead of placing a phone call? Through the website?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
instead of placing the phone call, they were just directed to a web page where it said, "Hi, I can answer all of your questions about this business." And the customers just start talking to it like a human. And majority of the time, it did obviously 50% of the time, right? It still required at some point for 50% of the people, "Hey, I'm going to have to put you in touch with somebody," or "I don't quite know that."
Yeah.
The good news is with our company specifically, we're very hands on with all of the customers we integrate with. We're watching what's happening very closely, and we're finding ways we can close those gaps. So when we see that happen, we see our AI is being asked something it doesn't have an answer to. We're working with our customer to map that answer, so at least we can catch the next customer and the next customer.
Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting in general about AI is it keeps learning, right? It's not just a static solution that until the next version of it comes out or someone develops something better, it kind of is what it is. So, I mean, if you can, like that example, if you can come in and after one iteration, drop call volume by 50%, and then you're able to kind of keep chipping away at that through more and more iterations of it based on the system learning and you guys and your client learning, like, okay, now what are the primary reasons that someone's picking up and calling, right, out of that second 50% that did still have to call. So what would be the ultimate, like, are there companies out there where it would be feasible and realistic to say, hey, we can go down to basically zero call volume?
I think that there's a world. It depends on the company, again, the
Right.
scope and the
Sure.
size. I do think it's possible with the right company and a scope and size. But I think what this is really about, in my opinion, is it's how much can we streamline operations, make it better for the user who has to interact with this customer support system. They're busy franchise owners. They might be traveling. It's 3 p.m. in Greece right now, but it's 3 a.m. in New York. So I got to get this answer, but no one's going to be awake when I'm awake, kind of thing, right? Delivering this ability of a 24/7 agent, if you will, that knows everything about your company and can answer the questions over text or phone or web chat. It really gets to the heart of it, which is, can this become the front line of support and get really good at that? And then you're only trickling through what's needed to humans after that, right? So maybe it does reduce your need for human then to almost zero. What I do know, though, is it's going to reduce the number of humans you'll need, and it's going to make the humans that are fielding all of that incoming work, it's going to be a heck of a lot more organized. When
Yeah.
our AI is the first line of support and it's gathering all of that information first, getting what it can, recording everything along the way, because it is a computer. We have so much information we can drop off. all the way down to, depending on how they're interacting with us, all the way down to what computer they're using, what web browser they're on, where they're located, where they're coming from, right? All of this metadata, if you will, can even get passed in. So the person who is receiving that human request at the end of the day isn't just walking into it blindly.
If you've been considering business ownership, if you're already a business owner looking to expand and you're curious about franchising, I'd love to connect with you, answer any initial questions that you have, talk about a specific franchise, and detail the exact process that I use and have taken hundreds of people through to help them understand franchise ownership, find the right franchise for them, and conduct the necessary due diligence. Click the link in the show notes if you'd like to schedule a free, no obligation strategy call. I look forward to talking with you. And now back to the episode. Yeah, I've always said as a human, it terrifies me how much data all these companies have on us. As a business owner, I love it. All the data that you can get access to. So it's kind of two sides of the coin for it for me. But what are, Mike, we'll come back to you in just a minute, but Alex, so what are some other examples of how companies are currently using, or how you envision them being able to use Clarissa to operate more efficiently, create a better customer experience? Because look, the fact that you were able to reduce call volume by 50% in this one example, I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, well, that's great if you're the business owner, right? Because it's probably saving me money. I'm not having to pay someone for as many hours to manage the phone or as many people to manage the phone. But probably for those 50% of customers that didn't have to pick up the phone, they're probably thrilled about that. We're in a day and age where for most consumers out there, picking up the phone and placing a phone call is almost like a last resort. And it feels like the biggest hassle in the world if you can't get an answer via text message or chat on a company's website. So I got to imagine there's a big customer satisfaction component to this as well.
Yeah, and we're learning what that customer satisfaction component is. It does seem very black or white at the moment. I can't lie. It's either you love it or you hate it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think where it's probably going to get sticky is people on the phone talking to what they know is AI. There's probably a lot of people that haven't wrapped their head around that one yet, but I would think if they can actually get the answer and the information that they're wanting through a chat and they don't have to pick up the phone and call, that's a big plus in the consumer's eyes. But talking to AI is probably going to take a lot of people a little bit longer to come around to.
Totally.
Yeah, no, yes. And that's what we're learning as well, especially when our AI is placing outbound calls. Those aren't as well received. Yeah. They're already poorly received as a human. So as an AI, you really can get on people for it. So, but our focus is really in not necessarily sales with AI, because there's already quite a number of solutions out there if you want to start using sales and AI and use these tools. This is about how can we create custom AIs that know everything they need to know about your company to represent your business, and then how can we get those AIs, answering the phone if it needs to. But yeah, if we could push it to text or push it to web chat, let's do that instead. It's really more about awareness, honestly. At that point, you Google a business or a company, and one of the first things you find is their phone number. And so phone is just kind of one of those first things people go to. I kind of wish in a way that there was a really easy way for your Google listing to actually say whether you can call or text the number that you have listed. Because I think that could actually change quite a bit if my clients were able to list, hey, you could actually text my number rather than call me. I think they'd field a lot more inquiries because people are more open to that.
Totally. For me personally, if I could inquire via text and not have to talk to anyone, I'm all about it, because I'm texting all the time, but I can do that while I'm kind of multitasking and doing other things. Whereas the phone call, you kind of have to put everything else on hold and pick up that phone. I mean, I have my kids running around in the background half the time. Like I can't talk to anyone on the phone, like not productively, at least, you know?
Yeah, actually, what you're describing is what what our data is alluding to right now,
Yeah, I
which is
believe it.
we're actually breaking the modalities of our incoming conversations, how they're coming in, the way they're coming in. We're breaking that down, and we're realizing there's actually a sense of urgency around each of these modality types. So people who are calling have a higher sense of urgency than people who are texting or people who are
Yeah.
web chatting, right?
Uh-huh.
And what we're learning is because people have a sense of urgency with the calls, we're actually learning that maybe our AI isn't the best solution for being the first thing to pick up the phone, just because people are looking to urgently get to a human or
And it
just,
might just
you know,
frustrate them that
and
they have another layer to
right.
kind of
Our
work
system,
through.
our system makes it very easy. You say anything to that effect, and it'll say, just say human or manager, and I'll connect you. And then you just say human manager, and it will connect you. So I would say people aren't very frustrated actually about the process of getting there.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I wonder then is how effective is the tool? If everyone's just calling and asking for a human right away, then in this phone instance, for
Right.
example, for this
Then is the
client,
phone
then
component of it very
yeah.
helpful at all?
So what we've actually switched it around to is going, okay, let's have it ring the actual business for 5, 6 rings. And then instead of just throwing them to a voicemail where someone can leave a message, are they more open to talk to an AI now? Because they're not going to get their phone call answered, and they know that. So maybe the AI can give them something, it's kind of lowest common denominator a little bit. And so they're willing to work with the AI more and maybe resolve or get enough of an answer to satisfy them without actually having their call taken.
Let me ask you this, and then Mike, I promise I'm coming back to you because I have a ton of questions for you too, man. Is it feasible in the future that people are calling company A, company B, whatever company, they're talking to an AI, they're getting every question answered, yet they don't have a clue that they're not actually talking to a human being?
Well, this is funny. So Mike and I are actually a part of a consortium, I guess you could say. I don't know. That's kind of a
Yeah,
fancy word
consortium,
for it, but
collective, whatever you want to call it.
yeah. We're talking people with PhDs. I mean, Mike does as well, but people who are in advanced machine learning. I mean, amongst people I'm humbled by in the AI sphere. I mean, we're talking huge people. There was, I don't know how many of us on the call, 20 at least.
Yeah, it was like 20
Um,
plus.
and,
Yeah.
it was our first inauguration call. And the reason I bring this up, Wes, is because that's exactly the question I asked while I was there. Should an AI, ethically speaking, should an AI have to announce itself? And at the time, which was a few weeks ago, most of the people agreed that at this point, yes, you should probably be aware that you're interfacing with an AI, just because mostly it's not being used, and so it's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah,
But
right.
as company A, company B, company C, all the way to Z start using this, I don't think it's as important. However, I think the big catch-22 there is if someone asks what it is, it should never lie and
Yeah,
say it's
sure.
a
Yeah,
human
yeah.
if it's an
If you
AI.
flat out ask, "Hey, am I speaking with an AI right now?" It should acknowledge it. I
Right.
look. I mean, I think I kind of liken this to, like, I don't know what, 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little bit, 15 years ago. Most people were sketched out to like put their credit card information in online and buy something online, right? And then people kind of started adopting it, and now it's like, dude, we've got Apple Pay, like everything's on auto, so like it's becoming more and more rare to actually pull a card out and swipe it. So I think we're probably in those kind of early stages with like people being like, wow, I'm talking to AI. Like that's a little creepy. Like it's people are going to, and probably will warm up to it much quicker just because of how rapidly things are expanding. Um, and yeah, I think eventually, most people would prefer to talk to an AI than because they probably have more confidence in the information they're getting. There's more consistency in the information they're getting, and no one's going to get a snarky attitude with them because they're having a shitty day, and they're the fourth person that's called in this hour with the same question. The AI is not going to get an attitude with you unless you program it that way, which could be kind of fun, I guess, but make it really lifelike, right?
Yeah. No, it's funny too because
You're on to something.
There's actually ways that folks have been able to like clone their voices using some tools, right? And so somebody was like, I don't want to like audio record a bunch of these. I'm just going to clone my voice and just like copy and paste all the transcript into these marketing videos, and it's like me talking. And of course, I helped and put down the transcripts of any calls we had over Fireflies, and then I basically made his voice, from a 1 to 2 minute video, and it's really it sounded pretty much just like them.
And that's all you needed was 1 to 2 minute videos of him actually talking.
Yeah, the audios actually, yeah, but just like the
Yeah.
1 to 2 minutes of the audios, and it was able to recreate the voice. And so, I think that thinking through, what the actual, I guess, like, danger points of AI in the more short term are, it's more like there's, possibilities that, you could have someone misrepresent you, right? Like, people
Mhm.
creating AI images and AI art. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, right, like, there are also so many people now using it and starting to become conscious of new use cases. And we talked about data earlier, right? Like the real key is to work with partners who are going to collect a number of data pieces or data points about your target market, because what will inevitably happen as we move forward is I think competition will be really based around not just like AI. Like AI will almost be like a computer. Like you need it to like really have that level of productivity. So the question isn't whether you use AI or not, it's whether the data sources and everything connected to it is going to be all in harmony and synergized, right? Because if
Yeah.
all of your tools all connect together and they all make sense to have this workflow, and now you're shaving off time from 10 hours a week that you were doing this to 1 hour a week, like sometimes I do when I create some of my copywriting. That was one of the hardest things I used to have to do. Now I created an entire custom program to be able to take in, my voice, but also take in, some of the best, principles about writing. And now I write a lot of my stuff like that, and then just add my personal touch to it. And so when you think about things that maybe you never really liked to do, if there was an opportunity to connect the dots and have it do something you weren't very good at or was taking you a lot of time versus other folks, it would be in your best benefit to build an AI solution like towards that. But at the same time, you always need to figure out what your data input is, right? And that's why
Yeah.
working with the right partners to collect that can be the difference between being a leader in a region or a leader in a space versus you're kind of someone middle of the road, or maybe you might not be implementing anything and you might be struggling because everybody else is just going that much faster than you.
Yeah. Good points. And yeah, I think that's a good analogy, right? Like these days, if you're, in the business world in any capacity and you don't have a laptop, like you're so far behind, I think everything's going to be powered by AI in some capacity. So you better get comfortable with it. And I know it's something for me. Like I'm probably way behind the curve, but I'm trying to, play some catch up, really dive in and educate myself. And I'm just looking at it through the lens like, how can I use this to improve my businesses? And exactly like you said, Mike, like how can I use this to essentially replace myself or someone that I'm paying that's doing these kind of repetitive tasks. Like to me, that's the low hanging fruit, and then you go from there. But
Well, really quickly, I wanted to
yeah,
mention that something that we're working on right now, and I think that this is going to be helpful for a lot of folks, and especially those in the franchise space, whether you're a franchisor or a consultant. The idea is that we're looking to actually create almost like a certification around the use of AI between us as partners, and to be able to share that with folks who do want to become well versed in your AI tools, to know how to use it effectively, to get you past the initial, hey, here's how I'm going to write better, or please fix my writing and please make me art. We want to give you more practical use cases, and it's kind of a part of a larger partner program that we're putting together. And so
okay,
if folks who want to learn more about artificial intelligence and want to figure out how to get acclimated to that, we're going to be building up some modules and material for you to go ahead and learn more about it. And we'll give you a badge at the end of it, of course, to share and show that you've been going through that material. So for anybody
when
interested
you
in
guys
hearing
think
this,
you're when you think you're launching that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have kind of like a base idea around the program right now, and we're essentially creating the modules for it. So probably sometime, in the early December timeline will be, probably around the time where we launch it. But we want this to be a way for folks to just get caught up to speed. And I think from our experience talking to people and where their comfortability lies, I think we have a lot of places that we can help improve the way you use it, so you can use it much more effectively, like speaking another language.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's much needed. So you guys keep me posted as that's coming together. We'll have you guys back on the podcast again when you're ready to launch it, and help you get some exposure for it. And I know that's something, because it's like, I mean, it's the same thing as like what I help people with when it comes to finding the right franchise business. Like there's a lot of noise out there, right? And there's a lot of AI tools that are coming to market, on the market. And so like you can, if you're like me and you're far from an expert in this stuff, like you could spend countless number of hours just trying to do some basic research and figure out, all right, which of these tools do I want to go with, out of all the options that are out there, So I think something that can help people figure out the right use cases for themselves, but also, cut through some of the noise and get a better sense, like, all right, what are the best tools or applications?
That's one of my favorite parts about actually what we're doing. Once I can get in and build trust and demonstrate that we know how to work AI, we know how to customize it for your business, we know how to make it work for you. It's really, if you can just get into this paradigm, you're already going to be ahead right now, probably 2/3 of the people out there. And that paradigm is, can AI do it? I
Mm,
think a lot of people have been stuck doing things the way that we've been doing them, for a long time without AI. And so we're thinking of traditional solutions to problems that can be much easier and cheaper to answer with AI. But you don't know unless you kind of have a resource to go back to. So for example, one of our customers on a call the other day said, it's just great that I have you guys to talk to about this, because it's like something comes up and I go, well, can Clarissa handle it? Can they make an AI for it? And I love that we're the first people they think of, because the answer might be yes, oftentimes is. And it's not perfect for everything yet. But again, they're asking the right questions when they hit a roadblock or a problem. They're going, wait, do we have to hire a person for this, or can AI do it? Do we have to hire a company for this, or can AI do it? And being there for them as our customer, we're willing to meet anytime and say, hey, let's try something out. Let's make this work.
yeah. Yeah, I like that paradigm shift. Can AI do it? I was listening to a podcast the other day. Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and I haven't finished it yet, so I haven't gotten to the part where he apparently shares what his biggest fears about AI are. So I don't know where he's going with that, but one of the things that really caught my attention is he said, at some point in the future, and it's probably not that far out, most people will probably have like their own personal AI, like their own personal polymath, basically. Just like we all have a cell phone now, right, that walks around in our pocket, and we can, use it to communicate. We can use it to look up information. So many things that we can use it for. What do you guys think about that? Like, what does that look like? Like when he says personal AI, like what? Help me interpret that.
Totally, totally. So, when I look at personal AI, I think that one of the things that they're probably doing right now is like the whole idea around having like an agent, right? Like they probably are going to have something that they can program and do specific tasks. They're having it be able to do tasks across their computer, like booking meetings or like scheduling links, like. And I think that the evolution of that, is just that it's essentially a smarter and smarter assistant that will be able to take over some of the menial tasks of what you can do. I think what we will see in the future is the combination with things like AI robotics. Like you were also part of an initiative to try and scale the curriculum for this AI robotics school to get into a number of different universities and build a pipeline for the future workforce, because AI robotics will be 3.4% of GDP eventually. And some people might say, well, 3.4% is not a lot, but you think about what 3.4% of that number of GDP for the United States. That's a considerable amount, right? So I think
Well,
the
I would,
actual
yeah.
what will actually happen is they'll create some machines that will be companions. They will be companions of people. They will also be assistants for people. They will be house cleaners. They will be folks who they're essentially like extensions of the Roomba, and maybe even more sophisticated to handle multiple things, right? And I think it'll inevitably be that these machines will obviously kind of come like cars. They will have certain ones that are going to be amazing for certain use cases. Other ones will be better for other use cases. And the AI, personal AI will now exist between the software interface or one that'll actually be a physical representation, like a robot or like something else. And that's where I think personal AI it begins to now become that tangible for us in everyday life.
Fascinating. Well, you've seen these robots that Tesla came out with. They look just like the freaking things from iRobot that killed everyone. So that's a little terrifying. If you've seen the end of that movie, but yeah, I mean that's what Elon was saying. From everything I saw, he's like, in the next couple years, these will be for sale for somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000, but it can basically do most of the work around your house: cooking, cleaning, yard work, clean up behind the dog, like laundry, like all of it. And I'm like, for 30 grand a year,
Yeah. And
I could do
AI
that.
it can be kind of a mirror in a sense where you can use it on itself even, and then you just kind of start going down a strange road a little bit. For example, I just said if you're going to do it right, you're going to have a paradigm shift, and you're going to ask, can AI do it? So when faced with this possibility that we would be having to spin up hundreds to thousands of locations of phone systems over AI, I was going, wow, I'm going to have to hire a team of people to get this done. Or can AI do it? And I built an AI to build AIs. And now I think I've reduced our need for actually scaling considerably.
There's probably a lot of that going on, isn't it? With AIs starting to build other AIs.
I think we're starting to see that in this next evolution of what we have. So we'll
And so is
we'll
it, is
buckle
it,
up, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
uh, I mean, we could go on for hours with my naive questions about this type of stuff, but is it reasonable to think that as AIs start building AIs, then those new AIs that were created by AIs become better and better AIs because there weren't human flaws involved in the creation of them?
I think eventually, but like right now, the attenuation of someone building something and then telling it to build something else is there's like actually to some degree like and you can probably even prompt it in such a way right now where the systems will take in whatever it is that you're saying and try to produce as best of an output as that you possibly can. Now, here's the thing, right? Like, I really think the if you were to program something with the exact same information as yourself, with the exact same way that you perceive things, and it was one to one, sure, yeah, you could probably build stuff that would be exactly the same. The reality, though, is you're programming something in such a way where you're trying to basically pass over the information that you want to into another system. And usually, what it takes is having to refine it X amount of times in order to get it right. Now, you have to imagine that said machine is going to look at it X amount of times, and how will it know that it's right? Is to measure it what against itself. And then, if you're measuring against maybe something that's not completely all the way, programmed the right way, what'll happen, right? It'll make imperfect copies over and over and over again, and it'll do so in ways that you're not even expecting. So today's current day systems, I think you could be very, very precise and make it so that they're essentially clones of each other, making it over and over again. But I do think that we're talking about really, really complex stuff. Like, I think it'll take another generation or so in terms of like maybe like a GPT-5 or like I think they have 1.0 out right now. But like it would probably take another generation or so for it to get really, really good at stuff like that.
I mean, I mean, another generation is not that far out in the future in all likelihood, correct?
No, we're talking about like 2, 3 years probably. Like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like generations to AI are
Why?
like, it's not like a decade. Like we're talking
Right.
about, the speed in which I mean, if anybody's familiar with Moore's law, right? It was like you basically can fit more and more stuff and more memory into smaller and smaller things, right? So that's what's happening now.
Is Moore's law kind of maxed out now? Is that
It's a power law, so no. It's essentially that it's essentially the curve that goes like this, right? Like technically you
yeah,
can
I
make
feel
it
like
go to
I
a
heard someone, it was probably
It,
on Joe Rogan's podcast, saying that it was starting to like flatten out.
Yeah, because we can only make processors down to the size of an atom at the end of the day, or transistors down to the size of an atom, right? However, with quantum computing, like around the corner, now we're working with subatomic particles. And so that's just completely destroyed the notion of, so if we can figure out how to get quantum down to a more feasible state, then that's I think the next horizon. So
That breaks my
a lot
brain
of ifs
even
on that.
more.
Yeah, and I think to your point real quick too, just to kind of help you visualize this, Wes, because I know you're millennial, kind of old school. I don't know, maybe Gen X like me a little bit, where with AI, because it's a closed repository, it only knows what it knows, and so it can create a bunch of itself within itself. But just like taking a VHS and making a copy of it, and then making another copy of it, another copy of it, and eventually like you have the same movie, but it's got it's all fuzzy and it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that
the
great. Yeah,
quality breaks down.
yeah, exactly. So there is a degradation point with AI right now. Where that threshold will be lifted is when the AI is able to continuously input more information into itself. So it's not working in a closed loop anymore,
Right, it's able
but
to
it's
pull in outside information. So we're not there
yeah,
yet.
yeah, right, yeah, exactly, yep. And no, we're not there yet. That would be a form of general intelligence, which is kind of what everyone's afraid of, more or less.
Yeah. Is there reason to be afraid of that?
People think it's the beginning of Skynet, Terminator, end of the world, iRobot. That could go on and on of maybe the the stories we've told in our culture over the years of why the singularity should be feared. But to be honest with you, Wes, in my personal opinion right now, I don't know if it should be. I'm not sure if the singularity can actually bring a future for us where humans can do what humans should be doing, which is just focusing on caring for each other
Mm.
and stop all of the nonsense.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, that's the question, right? Is because there's a lot of humans out there that if they end up with too much time on their hands, they're just going to go find some nonsense to get into, right? Um, so I guess that's kind of the big question, right? Is like what do we all end up spending our time on if we have a lot of what many of us call work being done for us. I
yeah.
think it's pretty clear people need like purpose and something that they're driving towards in order to really be happy and be satisfied. So yeah, I don't know. But hey, it sounds like we're going to find out here pretty soon
Yeah,
because we are barreling full steam ahead down
it's
this
here.
AI road, and
It
I don't think
is.
anyone's pumping the brakes anytime soon.
Nope. Nope. And Bill Gates was just on Oprah talking about something in an AI special they had recently to that effect, right? Where he sees a future where there will be a 3-day work week. Humans aren't going to be useless by any means.
Yeah.
We just don't realize what we could actually sometimes be spending our time doing when we think we have to be doing some of the things that we're doing. That's all that AI can take over
Yeah,
for us.
I
But
think most people
we're
are at their
we're
best
away.
when they're being creative and trying to solve a problem. And so like if all the menial stuff is kind of being done, all the repetitive tasks, like that's where I think, humans will still be able to, obviously
Right.
continue to have value. And there's just no telling what we can continue to build when, most of the human efforts going towards creating the vision and coming up with the ideas. And then you have these remarkably smart tools that can kind of come behind and implement and actually build it. So yeah, I don't know. It's exciting. It's exciting. I've got to learn more about all of this. The quantum stuff breaks my brain. I've tried to understand it, and no, I'm not wired for that, I'm afraid. But guys, you've been very generous with your time. We will definitely have you guys back on the podcast because I'm going to be watching closely. How companies are implementing both Clarissa and FreeFuse. I'm going to be introducing you guys to people in my network that I think could benefit from these services. So I think what you guys are doing is really cool, much needed in any type of business I can think of. So appreciate you coming on here and sharing. Each of you quickly just tell people where they can find you, connect with you, and learn more about your companies.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, just Clarissa AI. I'm Alex Londo, or you can just go to clarissa.ai and schedule 20 minutes with me. I'd love to talk to you.
Yep. Same with myself. You can go to freefuse.com to learn more. You'll also notice I have the background of my newsletter. I don't know which way this points, but I have the background to the newsletter as well. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to always take a conversation, and I have a booking link on there as well. And of course, Alex and I like to post stuff about what we're doing all the time. So feel free to engage with us there. Love having conversations and hope to connect with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on here and breaking my brain, and also making me realize how old I am, Alex. I'm going to be 38 in about a month. And when the smart young Gen Z guy has to use a VHS reference to help you understand something, you really start to stop and think about your mortality. So thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
I'm a millennial. I'm a Gen Z millennial mix there.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
but yeah, but I got you.
You're
I
old
got you.
enough to know what a VHS is and know that I would probably understand that reference. So you dated yourself a little bit with that too.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll put all your links and website in the show notes to make it easy for people to find, but really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.